When the news broke that the FBI had conducted a raid of former President Trump's Florida residence, the reaction of many conservatives was immediate suspicion of both the FBI's motives and also their motives for this unprecedented action. It doesn't take too long of a memory to recall the response by U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland and his Justice Department to the National School Board Association's cry against concerned parents who were then equated to domestic terrorists. So such suspicions are not completely surprising. Why is public trust in the FBI and many other federal institutions so low? Can it be restored? Joining me now to talk about it is David Harsanyi. He's a senior editor at The Federalist. David, good to see you today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, what was your reaction to the raid when you first heard about it?
Well, considering the long, or I'd say the recent 5-year history of how the FBI has acted and how politicized it's been, my reaction was distrust and skepticism. Raiding the home of the ex-president and the likely presidential candidate for the next election is unprecedented. And to do so, there should be a really high bar of legal reasoning, but also of suspicion. And we haven't yet seen what those are. So I still remain skeptical and suspicious of the action.
Now, David, you wrote an article for The Federalist discussing why you think mistrust of the FBI is not completely unwarranted, in that you compared the treatment of Hillary Clinton, who also had classified information stored at her home, admittedly, to the way that this was dealt with. How do you see those situations as either different or similar?
Well, they're a little different because the president at the time of that investigation was Barack Obama. Can you imagine if the president had been Mitt Romney or George W. Bush, who had an attorney general then investigating the candidate for the presidency? I mean, it would have, the media would have melted down if that had happened. But in some ways, it is similar. We had Hillary Clinton, who had a secret server in her home, which carried around 2,000, I think, classified emails, but I forget the number, maybe 10 top secret emails that were being sent on this server that she was using to circumvent the law. And no one raided her home. Her staff would later use all kinds of programs to bleach, to cleanse her server of all those emails, and no one raided her home. They literally used hammers to destroy phones and laptops, and no one raided her home. And she's not the first person that this has happened to. Sandy Berger in 2003, who worked for the Clinton administration, literally stole documents from the National Archive, and no one raided his home. So this raid on Trump's house might have been about something else, but if it's what has been reported, then it just doesn't make much sense, other than the FBI is using it for some sort of political reason.
Yeah, and there are things about this that don't make sense to me, because I'm not sure I think this actually harms President Trump. President Trump is a difficult guy to make look like a victim, but I feel like in some ways they're doing that with this, which makes me suspicious about whether this is really about documents, because I'm not sure it even helps them politically. Do you believe that they were just that this is exclusively about the dispute with the National Archives?
I mean, I don't know is the answer to that. It might have something to do with the January 6th investigation as well. I can't give them that much credit in the sense of when I say politicized, that they are thinking in this sort of Machiavellian way. I think that they just believe that they have the right to, in essence, go wherever they please when it comes to Donald Trump or other conservatives as well, because, they've convinced themselves that there was some kind of coup going on, and that that they're above the law, or that there are two tiers of justice. So I think that's mostly the problem. And frankly, I'm not even against holding the ex-president, responsible if he breaks the law. I just want all politicians to be held equally responsible if they're breaking the law. The problem here is that Donald Trump is the only one so far who's had to deal with something like this, when we have other presidents. I mean, Barack Obama, he spied on the American people, he spied on the Senate, he spied on journalists, and yet, the reaction was completely different. So I just want an equal tier of justice for all all people involved in politics.
All former presidents. Now,
And other politicians.
President Biden actually recognized this issue of trust between the institutions and the American public on January 7th, 2021, just before announcing Merrick Garland as his pick for U.S. Attorney General. Here's what he had to say. Let's play clip 2.
More than anything, we need to restore the honor, the integrity, the independence of the Department of Justice in this nation that's been so badly damaged. I want to be clear to those who lead this department who you will serve. You won't work for me. Your loyalty is not to me. It's to the law, the Constitution, the people of this nation, to guarantee justice.
David Harsanyi, that was the president a year and a half ago. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's laughable, right? I mean, when he was in the Obama administration, Eric Holder, who had been involved in a gun running scheme, when these guns went to Mexico and later were used to kill American citizens, I believe, or a border agent. And he was, there was an investigation and Congress subpoenaed him and he just ignored it because he worked for the Obama administration, not for the people. And nothing happened to him, by the way, whereas now Peter Navarro ignored a subpoena from the January 6th committee and he was shackled by the FBI. So the idea that these institutions are going to be less politicized under Joe Biden than they were against Donald Trump is just in their imagination. It's something that he's intimating there, of course, that these institutions had been undermined by Donald Trump, when in fact many of them just worked against the president, the elected president of the United States. And I'm not a huge fan of that president, but when he's elected duly by the people, these institutions in the executive branch answer to him. They don't answer to newspapers, and they don't answer to Congress even. They answer, to the president first and foremost.
David Harsanyi, in about 30 seconds, are we left to just wait for the midterms and see what Congress does in response?
Yeah, I don't know that Congress is going to be able to do much. They're going to haul people up there, but it's a lot of noise for American voters now in these days, I think. So I'm not sure this is going to change as much, the dynamics of this election as much as everyone believes.
Well, it is a lot of noise in a very loud room already. David Harsanyi, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.